Yes, greetings, greetings, greetings. Dr. David Roots, Living Roots with you. Welcome to another episode of King's Talk. This one is positive. This one I'm looking forward to very much so. Let me make sure all of the technicals are going correct. We have the brother in the room, I see. So that's good. Hopefully he can hear me. Can you hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. Greetings, greetings.
Let's
I can
test your
hear
mic
you.
out.
I hope
I
you can
cannot
hear
hear
me
you.
good. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Uh,
Okay, now I can hear you.
okay,
Now I can hear you loud and clear.
great.
So, greetings to you. Am I coming through clearly?
Greetings, greetings, Ken. Give thanks for having me on your show, King's Talk. And greetings to all the listeners and the viewers as well.
Thank you. I know we had a bit of a technical difficulty earlier, so I'm thankful that you are able to be here. This episode, King's Talk, The Way of the Kings, The Way of Kings, I titled it. This is my third episode in the podcast, and what this episode is about, it's about what I call the King Alpha Way. The King Alpha Way for me is a uh, title that I'm giving to a outlook, a lifestyle, a mindset that includes physical attributes, physical activities, physical directives, as well as mental and spiritual directives as well. And so part of trying to explore and find out more about what it takes to embody the mindset of kings, I try to talk to people that can give insight on this. And I know that you can give some insight. So I'm going to take a step and make sure I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Anane?
Yes, correct. Anani.
Okay, Anane. And how about the surname, the second name?
Desire is an English name. Desire.
Desire. Okay, so
Yes.
Anane Desire, the brother goes by. And you were telling me in your bio that you sent me that you're based in Ghana, obviously, well, what we now call Ghana, and you used a title, and I want to hopefully I get it correct. Is it Akimi, Okyeame,
Okyeame.
Okyeame,
Okyeame. Yes.
Okyeame? And make sure you speak up as well. I think it's a bit low on your end. So
Okay.
the Okyeame, um, would you be able to first tell the people about who you are as far as your your movement that you spoke about as a barefoot activist, as a spiritual and an herbalist. Tell us first. I'll start with that.
Give thanks. Yeah, so Anani Desire is the name, and I am a herbalist, spiritualist, and I do spiritual guides and tours as well, and the herbal practitioner. And I'm also a linguist to a Tano shrine. It's an official shrine that is located in Tanoso in the Ashanti side.
Okay. So you said Tano, which
Yes.
is a region, or is that what does that mean?
Tano is a deity. It's an Ashanti deity, and it's a river deity as well.
Okay. So Tano is a deity. Um, so I'm just repeating to make sure that I understand the basis.
Right,
And
yeah.
it's Asante. So when we say Asante, is it the same as Ashanti? It's frozen up. I don't know if you can hear me. See if you can rejoin. If you want to click out and then rejoin the stream.
Okay, I'm back on now.
You're back on. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
I was asking, when you say the Asante, is that correct? That it's also, people will also say the same thing is the Ashanti.
Okay. Ashanti and Asante is quite the same but different interpretation. Ashanti is the whole kingdom, and the Asante is just one tribe.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
Take your notes, people. Okay, we got the brother who
Right.
is talking to us direct from the Ghana region, and you said you are on the Asante side, which
Right.
is part of the Ashanti kingdom.
Right.
Excellent. Okay. So, as far as your work in regards to the Okyeame, what
Okyeame.
does that involve?
Okay. So Okyeame in the shrine, the official shrine, the deities, we have different kind of deities, but the supreme one that always possess to get to the message to the kings and the queens, and also to the nation, that is the Tano river deity. So my job as an Okyeame in the shrine, the different deities has their way of communicating to humans and what they means. So as an Okyeame, you get a direct meaning to decipher it to the people who came for the consultation or the message that the spirit or the deity Tano is trying to deliver.
Hmm. The Tano deity, does it have, is it considered to have some sort of form? Is it, for example, you said it's considered as obviously a deity of the Tano, but is it considered to be like a spirit, or is it more of a man form, or am I thinking about it in the wrong context?
Okay, so Abeswa is a town where I'm originally from and born, and the Tano um, river or deity, it has its source from the Bono and Ahafo region. So it come from the Bono, and they are all in the region of Akan. And when they say Akan, it consists of multiple tribes. So in the context of your question, the river Tano operates as a deity, a spirit, and then it only decide or get information across to its people through possession, the priest or the priestess who is in power.
Hmm, understood. So it manifests through people.
Right.
Yes. And you, as you call, you use the term the linguist, basically you, then your role is to interpret the messages and then pass that on
To the people. Right.
to the people. I don't want to focus too much on that because that's conversation for another. That's a whole nother, you know, talk that myself and yourself can do. And
Right.
also, as a herbalist myself, as a natural mystic, a natural health practitioner, uh, as I call myself, living roots. We are definitely in a oneness in regards to that. We know we talk to each other on Facebook. But
Right.
that is also conversation for another time. And there's things that I could learn from you, and there's things that I'm sure you could learn from me as well in that regard.
For sure.
So I'm going to try my best to stick to the topic, which is the way of the kings, and any lessons that you may be able to share with us in regards to my quest and many others' quests to
Okay.
understand kingship and understand how we may be able to apply some of these principles of kingship, in particular, those from what we consider the motherland and the fatherland, uh, to ourselves. So obviously, if you are associating, you mentioned the Ashanti Kingdom, and you also you mentioned as well. You said what was it? You said something about the Akan people, which is a bigger, huge group of people. Um,
Right.
there's obviously what we would call in the English kings and kingship. Is the way that we would you agree with that, that what we call kings and queens and so on and so on is exists within your tradition and within that tradition, and is it seen in the same way?
Okay. Um, so first of all, I would say kings and queens, as every human being born on this planet Earth, as long as you have this subtle body, you are king or queen on your own. And as a king over here, we give it a term called ohene. So ohene is the term given to kings who has passed through the traditional or the indigenous initiation process to rule over nation. We call nation or man. So um, historically, this is the system where all this rulership is coming from, and all this the imitation of what now we call the politics, that you have the district chief executive, you have minister, you have this, you have that. In the palace or in the kingship, we have all these similarities which were all plagiarized or copied from these indigenous systems.
Right. Understood. So the what you're saying to me then is that the original, if we can, try to go back within as far back as we can go, we would have had the principles of um, initiation. Is the kingship that you are speaking about? Is it something that goes within families, or is anyone eligible to take up this particular role if they get
Okay.
initiated?
Okay. So back in the days, olden days, where there's different kind of wars and people trying to settle in different spaces, so it bound to happen that if your descendants were the first people to settle at a certain region, they become the owner of that land. And in that family or the tribe of that clan is only where the kings and the queens are selected from.
Hmm.
Right.
So that is where the establishment of the line would come from the original people who were able to settle that land. Basically, it's almost as if the original family that was present in that land,
Right.
the leader of the clan, as you said, would then be selected historically from that clan to keep that lineage going.
Right. Right.
Makes sense. And so, in your wisdom and in what you have seen as an educated brother. The brother's very educated, but you're also well connected to other parts of the world. And, you know, from your analysis, you feel that a lot of what has not now exists within politics, a lot that now exists within other countries as far as royal families and, you know, all of this hierarchical executive sort of structure was basically just an evolution off of what would have existed originally within the motherland.
Right, right.
Mm.
So with this politics and the systematic of democracy and all of that, the system that were supposed to rule the people, the indigenous people, is what we call the Ubuntu. The Ubuntu system is I am because we are. And during the initiation and the process that you go through to be installed as a king or a queen does not permit you to be corrupt, because the spiritual side is attached to it, unlike the political aspect of it, where you get voted in and you use a religious book and you swear in, and when you are corrupt there is nothing that happens to you. So in the Asante tradition of kinship, it doesn't go that way. If you swore in and you do anything contrarily, it's 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 not gonna get well with you. Everybody, it will reveal itself publicly for everybody to see what you are doing. And also, let me explain a little bit of the initiation process, which makes it more uh, um, it makes it more in a way that you you cannot um, um, you cannot get corrupted. Let me put it that way. So,
Before you explain that,
mhm,
one of the things that I also think about, and people have mentioned this a lot. You'll see it on social media.
mhm,
Um, do you? I don't want you to obviously you know what you're doing,
right,
but please do not feel the need to reveal any of the traditions or things that we hold sacred that may not be useful to share with certain people who may try to, as you said, steal and co-opt our information.
right, right,
Because I've seen, I need some water. I've seen people concerned about this, that as African people, as Black people, we now, due to social media, are starting to share so much information. And we know in the past that that information has been used against us.
right, right.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it has always been the agenda to use our own words, our own culture, our own practices to against and make us go down more as a people, and also to unite ourselves. So it's very vital to keep a certain information very sacred, because some informations are not meant for a certain platforms. So I always be very cautious about what I share and what not to share. And people nowadays are going against the culture and tradition, in a sense that there are certain information that cannot be disclosed publicly unless even a few initiated people or initiated members. So people who are out there thinking they are doing their best of their best sharing of information to people, they must learn what platform and in what sense to get the people educated, the right people educated.
Exactly. I know that you conduct tours, and and knowing how deep you are as a brother and how connected you are, that's obviously you're aware of all of that in regards to protocol. But with that in mind, you were going to talk about the initiation, and you were saying that because of the initiation process, the way the initiation is structured, and when the effect of the initiation is that in regards to any kings that may be installed,
Mhm.
the chance of them being corrupted is unlikely. And if they did go against the values of the community, then that would have a major negative effect on them.
Right.
Elaborate on that.
Yes, right, right.
Can you tell us about that then? With, within
Okay.
reason.
All right. So before I go into that, I would like to also explain this terminology so we get clear as I'm about to go inside of it. Um, so when we say ahinsie, ahinsie is coronation or the instrument of a king of a nation. So there are certain people that play key roles in this installment or coronation of a king, and these people are um, the Kontihine. Kontihine in the Asante or the Chi language. Um, it's called Kro Tihine, which means the the head, the second in command of the nation. So the
Mm,
continent is the second in command of the town or the nation that the royals have the power to rule. So we also have the Ohima or the Oba Penini, which means the queen. So Ohima is the Asante name for queen, and these are some of the basic roles for the queens in the palace. They give advice to the kings, and also they are taking care of children and women. So they also take place in the ritual that are performed to transition a female young teenage into the adulthood, which is called bragro. So when you are not considered to perform that ritual to transition from the teenage to the adulthood, you cannot even consider yourself to go to the position of the queenship.
mhm.
So we move forward. Mhm.
That's the
Go
right.
ahead.
So, like what we call in English, we'd say, "Oh, the rites of passage."
Right, right,
Mm.
rites of passage. Right.
So the king would be known as the Ohini,
Ohini,
and the queen is the Ohima.
Ohima. Right.
I've actually heard those. Plug my laptop in really quickly. Hold on a minute.
Okay. And some of the tribes too have their ways, since it's different kind of multiple languages. In the Ga tradition, they also call their kings or their chief manche. So in
Mm.
every culture and every tradition, they have different names, but it's the same meaning.
So when we say Ohini, is it loosely translated as king, or does it mean exactly the same? Basically, head ruler or someone that sits on the throne. Is it the same meaning, or is it we just using it similarly?
So Ohene is the same meaning as king in the English. So Ohene is the title, as the English king is a title. So um, when the full name comes, and then where the person rules, and then you get to know this person is actually a king, not bearing uh, the name as the namesake.
Understood. Understood. Okay. So is the idea that the Ohine, um, they talk about the stool in Ghana and the Ashanti. Is that
Right.
associated with the Ohine?
Yes, the Ohene is in the position of that stool which you are installed on.
Would that be the same as what in the English system people would say a throne?
Say that again.
Would that be that stool? Would that be the same as in the English system what people would call the throne?
Throne, yes, yes.
So no one else can sit on that stool.
No, unless the king who is crowned to be a king of that nation, they are the only ones that can sit on the stool.
Mm. Is
Right.
there anyone higher or considered higher than the Ohine?
Um. So, in the Ohene's family, they have a family head which is called the Abusuapanyin. The Abusuapanyin is considered to be higher within the Ohene's family. But when it comes to the palace, um, Ohima is considered to be the higher and other sub chiefs as well.
Mm. So the Ohima is considered to be higher than some of the chiefs.
Right.
Wow, understood. So it's interesting for me because originally I come from Bermuda, and Bermuda is even to this day a colonial vassal of Britain, and obviously my ancestry is African, uh, as well as mixed with others. And so when you're talking and revealing this information, it just makes me understand how much was lost when people were taken from the continent, from Africa, in terms of their traditions, in term and you're only talking about one small segment of all of the clans, as you said, and tribes or nations or kingdoms or whatever you want to call them that were in existence, you know. And in association with all of this is terminology, is stories, traditions, and all of these other connected factors, which reveal just how much in in deficit that Black people in the West actually are. No matter how far they go in terms of education and all of that, there's still huge holes that exist.
Right. Right. Yes.
How was your interaction, for example, in regards to that with people that were visiting you? I know recently you had some people visiting you on a successful tour that you put on and a retreat. How it's almost like we're babies when we get back on the continent because there's so much to learn.
Right. There's so much to learn, and one didn't pay to get over there in the other side of the world, which is very painful when one has to also pay to come and know your dignities and your identities is very painful.
Mm,
And some of our families from the diaspora, when they come home, they feel so at home, and they feel this is where they belongs to. And as you said, it's there is a lot to learn, like in the culture and the traditions. There are certain cultures and traditions that you can't handle people with something with your right left hand, which
Hmm.
seems as a sort of disrespecting the person. And you don't know about all these things. And it's not your fault. That's why you have to come home, know your dignities and your identities, and fit yourself into the culture. And it is also being portrayed negatively about Africa. So some of you, when you come home, you don't really want to open your heart fully to get connected to the culture. People tend to question before they try to get themselves involved to some of the practices and all of that, which is all part of the initiation process to be able to get to know your roots and your identity.
100% agree. I mean, I just came back from Lagos in Nigeria, and
Beautiful.
the even though Lagos is an ultra modern city with cars and everything, the
Right.
traditions and so many different people from around Nigeria and actually just West Africa in general. Because one of the brothers I met, he was from Togo, but I would have never known if I hadn't asked him because he had the same scars on his face and so on and
Mhm.
so on. But so many of the practices that I just didn't know about. For example, the prostrating to your elders, and even though I knew about that, wasn't sure about how to go about it, who to do it to, and that's just the very basics of some of the traditions, you know. So there's so much to learn, and the other disadvantage, of course, of the family in the diaspora is that we don't necessarily know fully, even though we can do, some DNA testing and things like that. We can try to do a bit of archival research. We don't really fully know who to align ourselves with as a particular family, on the motherland. So, and there's so many. There's obviously the South African families and clans. There's the Gold Coast. So many all around. You even have the East Africa as well. So I can only imagine how much joy the people that visited you took from that. Now, let's get into the idea of the kingship a bit deeper.
Mhm.
Although the kingship is, as you said, it's an office, it's a title that the Ohini is a title. What,
Right.
first of all, what is the role of the Ohini? What is the
Mhm.
role for the community?
Okay. So the role of the Ohene, the king, is to protect the community and bring peace and justice rule to his people.
I know in some parts of Africa that
Mhm.
the, for example, I know in Nigeria with the Yoruba, that the, although you have the state system and you have the tribal system, the kingdom, that there are certain um, things that the kingdom and the tribal people can actually do in those areas that are kind of almost like a government within itself. Do you understand
Right.
what I mean? Like there's certain, they can pass certain rules and guidelines within in the area that's part of the state,
Right.
but they're not necessarily, making laws in the legislative arm. Is it similar in that tradition where the king has specific powers to do things that really the state cannot say no or yes to?
Yes, yes, there is something like that, and it's let's say when there is a funeral in the territory of the king, and the king decide this specific time, um, each members of the state must sleep this time. The state don't have any rules against it. You must comply to what the king says.
Mm, hmm.
Right.
How do the people feel about that? Do they feel like, oh, that's a system that's stuck in the past, and that we have government leaders that we elect, and or do they respect that system and see the benefits of it?
Yeah, people still respect and give credence to this system, but there are few among others which they are deep rooted into the governmental sector, that they will definitely make comment that the world is developing, so all these are past things, so we must stop, put a stop into it. But in the actual sense, if this is not the indigenous style which all these governments side were copied from, even here in Ghana, let me give you this as an example. When there is a serious situation that has been taking years of years in the high court or the supreme court, or these highest courts, and they still can't bring peace and justice to that situation, they send it to the the palace for the kings and the authorities of the kings to work on that situation to bring resolution.
Who installs the king?
Okay, so there are different kind of sub chiefs or kings that install the king. So as I was explaining, um, so we have the Kronti Hene, which is the second in command of the state or the nation. We have the Ohima, which is the queen, and we have the Okyeame, which is the linguist, and the linguist mostly also interpret the royal history of the palace, and it's like a mouthpiece of the king. And we also have the Jasehene, and the Jasehene is the head of the palace treasurers, and he also preside over tax and the financial side of the palace. And we also have the Ankobia Hene. The Ankobia Hene means the chief that operates in the palace that doesn't go anywhere. He's like the keeper of the
Mm,
palace, the
mm,
king's throne. And
mm.
um, many others who also decide um, the installation or the instrument of the king. But among all these names, the Kronti Hine, which is the high head in command, who is the one that will decide. For instance, let's say the king passed away in a certain state, is the Kontihene is the one that will decide and go to the Ohima and tell the Ohima that we need a king, and the Ohima will call the queen, will call the family within um, where the king must come from. They will call the people and decide who has to be the king, and whoever qualifies, um, the the Jasihine, we have the Jasihine. The Jasihine will also send the information to the Okyeame, and then the Okyeame will reveal that person to the public, to the nation, And then there are a few other situations that they check, like a background check, whether that person um, is not a stealer or hasn't done any negatives in the past, or any forms of abomination or taboo um, in that state. And they also consider if the king is circumcised. In most tribes, they do that as well.
Mm.
And then uh, when they review you to the people, this is the newly coming king. And if the people, that is like a little piece of democracy, if the people agrees and want you as a king, they will definitely feel happy and joyful. And then when they show you to the nation, the king will then proceed, the continue will then proceed and take the king to the royal palace, the instrument house. And this is what happened. They cover your eye, the king. And this is being done midnight. They cover the eye and send you to the stool house. And the stool house is a sacred space for all the stools of the kings who have ruled before the coming king. So
Mm.
they do a certain rituals and ceremonies that you entered into the room, and then you pick randomly the stew, and the one that you pick will be the ancestral name that you will bear.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
will be your stool name. You have your
Mm.
actual name, but you will still have a stool name, which
Yes.
makes you different. Like it's a transition, it's a process, it's a
Yeah.
initiation. And
Yeah.
then the next morning, um, they do a certain sacrifice whereby the king will be sitting on a skin of a ram, which symbolize humbleness. As you are coming, you need to humble yourself to your people. You need to humble yourself so your people can take your words and respect and obey your words. And from there, um, they continue and take you to the the continue will continue and take you to the Ankobia Hene. The Ankobia Hene, in this case, is the one that is going to give you the history of the palace, the kingship, the stool that you picked, and the way you dress, and the way you speak to people publicly. So all these are being taught.
Mm. So there's an actual curriculum. There's an
Right,
actual lessons that once that king ascends to that role, then there is a whole lessons that need to be taught in terms of the conduct and the office of that king.
right,
Mm.
right. So yeah, and from there they taught you how to dress, like using the kente fabric in the Asante tribe,
Yes.
how to cover yourself with the kente, how to talk publicly, and also the certain practices that gives you the confidence to talk at the presence of whoever before you. And from this specific ritual, they take you to a certain house as well, where it's considered to be the sacred space for the kings. And from that room, you get to be there for 40 days. So for my knowledge and my understanding, to being in a room or a space for 40 days, automatically it keeps yourself or your body in a meditative way, to in tune to the higher realms. So once you comes out, you don't come out to be the same person. You come out to be a higher force that knows what the people want. And when you
Yes.
go through all the initiation and return from the 40-day journey, they organize or assembly the people, and they deliver you to the people, the people of the nation, that this is your new king. They do a grand derbar, and they will carry you on the neck or on the shoulder, and they will tour you around the whole nation. And whilst doing this, they spread powder, or there is a certain called shire. Shire is made out from a specific death from the earth that symbolize victory. So they will make it upon all your hair and your body, and it makes your body white, and that white symbolize victory, and also to bless you to live long, in a sense, to get a gray hair, as my beautiful King David Roots is rocking the beautiful gray hair of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So they bless you with that, and they go, once they tour you around the town, they get you back to the stool house, and they will do a certain rituals over there. And from there too, um, you are about to also get the walking the way you walk
Mm.
as a king, and how you interact with the ancestors in the stool house. So spiritually, you get to have an eye to interact with the realms of the ancestors. And the Kontihini and the Jasihini, they will sit you on the stool, on the throne, three consecutive times. And the last three times, they they will not sit you on, they will just leave you to sit, and then you are a king.
Like it's like a handover, basically. They sit you
Yes,
3 times, and the last time you sit on your own.
you sit on the, yes,
It's interesting listening to you. It's powerful. It's more than interesting. It's powerful listening
right,
to you, because one, it is actually me as a Rasta man, a Rastafari. It's telling me a lot about the coronation of His Imperial Majesty, because when you're speaking about it, even though obviously it's in a different context, many of the things that you are mentioning were done the same way as well, in terms of the new name and the different people that were involved. And obviously there's many things behind the scene that I wouldn't know of as well. The other thing that is bringing into context is that it's reminding me of the Bible, because it's almost as you said that these things were taken from our cultures, our ancient cultures within Africa, and then shared with the rest of the world. And then the world are hearing about these things, for example, in the Bible. And a lot of that culture is taken from our own African culture.
right, right.
That's what is revealing to me. So I wrote down some things. That's what I've been doing. I've been putting my head down and writing. And it says some of the things that are important are lineage, knowing where you come from, being initiated. You talked about being initiated, having vision, where the king had to pick out certain uh, the stool, and then once he picked out that stool, that means he was aligned with a certain aspect of his ancestry. The king has to exercise leadership in
Mhm.
terms of his governance and making the certain judgments.
Mhm.
The king has to embody culture as well. You talked about the curriculum that's passed on. They have to walk a certain way, they have to talk a certain way, they have to dress a certain way. And I'm sure there
Right.
are other things, maybe food or, whatever. There are other different things that is involved in this kingship.
Right.
Would you say then, as individuals, you said at the beginning that you consider anyone who has manifested now in the physical form, particularly as men, that they can embody the earn aspect of kingship. Would you say that there are lessons that we can then learn from the kingship tradition that us who want to raise ourselves as men into being leaders, being kings, can take from these examples?
Right. Right. That is what I mean when I said that, to learn about all these things, and it's even give a clear example that um every mighty king doesn't start just a twinkling of an eye. You have to go through a certain process, you have to go through a certain initiation in life to reach a certain point. You don't just wake up. We have a certain old adage that say ufiti prekope pausia mojaba, which literally means that if you just wake up and pick a branch of a stick and start to brush your teeth with it, at the end the blood is gonna come. So if you really take your time, chew the plant, and it will get more textured, and you can clean your teeth with it, and it takes time. So
Mm.
you don't just wake up and say, "This is what I am," and all of a sudden, that is how everybody should see you. You have to start from somewhere, and you
Wow.
have to be patient and go through all the ups and downs to build yourself.
So, in other words, some people, here I am in this evolution and, rising up to be uh, that king figure, but it may not be that time for some people because there may be different things. Some of our young men, some of our boys, they may be different aspects of life that they have to get through first in order to make sure that they're ready for that particular office in their own life.
Right, right.
How do the queens and the women look at the king? When I say look, I mean is there a level of respect? Is he seen as somebody that is desirous? You know,
Mm,
how do they look at the king? And I'm using this as an example of how us as men can hold ourselves up so that we can how our sisters and women in our community can look at us.
right, right. So the queens, all these um God and the idea of God also come into this. The queen sees the king as her God, and the king also sees the queen as his goddess and hold her high esteem, because every king know how powerful a queen is, and that is why a queen is considered to be the one who gives the power to a queen, sorry, a king to be installed. So, as a queen and as a woman, we have all these attributes of caring for your nation, So there is no way you can wish for the downfall of your nation. That is why you are there. So you will not consider to pick a king that is going to ruin, or that is not listening to the queen to ruin or lead the nation astray. And there are some other tribes that the queen are from other different family clan and not the same bloodline of the um, king. And there are some other instances whereby the king will choose um, his partner, his intimate partner, to be the queen. And most of the tribe also chooses the mother of the king as the queen mother.
Mm,
Sorry, I need to drink water.
yes.
1 minute.
Take your time.
Yes.
So the king's wife or partner doesn't automatically become queen just because he's installed. Many times it's the queen mother that actually, or the mother of the king that may be installed as the queen mother.
Yeah. So in the Asante kingdom, the woman considered to be the high in power or position. So, for instance, um, the um, the Asante Queen mother that passed away some years ago was the mother of the sitting king today. So as the tradition goes on, from the side of the king mother, which is where mostly in the Asante Kingdom they choose the queen from. So a the instances whereby it's from the same family, the queen is considered to be your stool wife, as it will go, but there's no intimacy, sexual intimacy to that, unless it is your married woman that also have that position of queen.
It's about rulership.
Right.
Yes, yes. So I want to wrap it up now because I don't like the videos to be too long, and we've been talking for over an hour, and it's so much more information that we could share, and we'll definitely
Right.
have to link again. But just to summarize in terms of why I thought this discussion would be useful is that, similar to you, the way I look at kingship is that I promote the idea of divine sovereignty, meaning that for each one of us that are in this physical existence, we were born, given birth to by our mothers and fathers physically, but the spirit that animates us, that living spirit, I see as divine. That living spirit I see as having no beginning, having no ending, and part of the divine spirit that's been in existence from the beginning and will be, that runs through all things. And so, in that way, everyone within the self is a kingdom and a queendom. Obviously, that then extends beyond you, because then you could build a family and you become king and queen of your family, and then you may even rise to positions of power and responsibility in your community. But ultimately, the most important kingdom that you need to exert rulership over is the kingdom of yourself. And that's the physical aspect, the mental, the spiritual aspect, and all those other aspects. So for me, learning about kingship is more than just, for example, thinking that there's some aspect of control. I see a lot of people talking about, oh, they want to be treated, as kings or queens, and they think it's about how people treat them. When actually, for me, from my understanding and my studies, kings, kingship, and queenship is about rulership. You rule over, a king rules over a kingdom, a queen rules over a queendom or rules with a king. And rulership is about leadership, and leadership is about service. And so the lessons that you have shared with me are very powerful, because you said in the role of the Asante king, there are certain values and certain practices that are important. One is the fact that you extend from a specific lineage. It's not just anyone. It's the family that was there's the original people, the
Right.
original people. Two, you need to seek, or you need to be initiated, meaning you need to be chosen and specifically uh, put forward to that particular role. Three, you need to have vision, the vision to select, as you said. And once you select, what you select aligns you with certain ancestral ways. Four, once you're in alignment, then you need to use that to exert your leadership in positive ways, because if not, you will be you won't have the faith of the community that you're going to serve, and you'll be removed.
Right.
And you need to embody the culture of your ancestors, and the culture also of what kingship is all about. um you definitely have There's so much that we could talk about, but you're definitely given a lot of insight in regards to, I'm going to put the topic back for us, that the way of kings, specifically from your community and your culture of the Asante. Now, just to finish, you were telling me that actually you also are born from different clans as well, you were saying?
Different tribes.
Different
The
tribes.
Yeah, the Basari tribe, and the Basari tribe also from the northern side of Ghana, between the Burkina Faso and Ghana, and then the Buzanga tribe are also from the same region, but originally they trace their root from Burkina Faso, and I was born on the Ashanti land, initiated into the Ashanti spiritual practices.
So even though your history or family would have come from the Burkina Faso side, you are
Right,
still able to participate as an initiate into that system.
right.
Mm. It's so much more. We're not going to be able to cover everything. I want to give thanks to you. If you want to say anything about your work, I know you mentioned that you are a barefoot activist, spiritual healer, medicinal practitioner, and where people can find you to learn more about what you do, what you are doing in terms of your public interface.
Give thanks. Yeah. So, what I would say is that leadership doesn't mean dominion, and as I was explaining, all the process that the kids go through is a lot. So you just don't wake up and say somebody should treat you as a king, which you don't have a respect for yourself yet. So you have to save yourself first before you save others. And um Zakelo for the works of me can also be found on social media at Anane Desire, my personal page, and also at Barefoot African Spiritual Tours. That is where you see all the spiritual tours that has been done in the past as well. And I have a shrine in Abiswan. Abiswan is in between the Ashanti and the Bron region. That is where the shrine operates. All kinds of healing. You bring it to the shrine, and then we go through over there.
So the barefoot tours, is that a website?
It's on Instagram, and it can also be found on Facebook as well.
Okay.
Barefoot African Spiritual Tours.
All right. I will, because I'm gonna put this on my YouTube channel, so I will get that from you and make sure I put it in the description. And make sure you follow him. You can follow myself at the King Alpha Way on Instagram, and follow Anane as well on Instagram. Um, in terms of getting to your region for the barefoot tours, do they come through Accra?
Yeah, Accra is the central, so you pass through Accra first and get to the region. So my tour are more based upon the healing aspect of it. As you said, most of the our family from the diasporans, when they come home, they are like a newborn baby, and as a newborn baby, the city is not a good space for you to get that mental clarity to get to yourself. So I have a similar practices or rituals that I put people who want to deeply heal themselves spiritually into it. That similar to the kinship side, you have to be in a room for a specific duration and a specific ritual that will be performed for you to be able to start getting yourself into the cultural aspect.
So if we want to visit, we'll fly into Accra, and will we have to get picked up, or will we meet you somewhere else? Maybe
Yeah,
in the
I'll pick you up
in
from Accra.
Kumasi, or will we have to travel out to Kumasi?
Yeah, it's closer to Kumasi. It's about 2 hours drive from Kumasi, and it's deep in the jungle where
Whoa,
there's beautiful
2 hours
nature.
drive from Kumasi. Whoa, okay,
Yes, 2 hours, 2 hours drive from Kumasi.
yeah,
Yeah,
all right. Give thanks. How do we say thank you? Is it Asante, or there's a different?
Asante,
That,
Asante
yeah,
P,
okay.
Medase, Medase,
Uh-huh. Give
Medase
thanks.
is
We
thank you,
appreciate we
Medase.
appreciate you being. We appreciate love you being on this King's Talk. We will definitely talk again now
Give
that we've done
thanks
the first
for,
one, and there's so much more that we can talk about. Give
give
thanks to
thanks,
everyone who's watched to the end of the broadcast.
give thanks.